Hello everybody, this is the iFan channel here, and today I'm going to Zagreb. I'm sorry if I did not film the earlier parts. I did have to return the car before 7 o'clock so I could arrive on this bus. So I could arrive on an 8:25 Flixbus all the way to Zagreb. And then tomorrow I'm going to go all the way to Dubrovnik, which is actually a coastal town in Croatia by the Adriatic Sea. So why not, I'll see you guys at the bus station. Basically, after about 1.5 hours riding on the first bus because of heavy traffic, I finally arrived on the Flixbus over here. As you can see, that's the Flixbus. I'm now heading to Zagreb, and then I'll see you guys when I arrive in Zagreb. Basically, a fun fact about Croatia is Croatia basically joined the EU like in 2013, about 11 years ago, and like it is the newest member of the EU. And it actually joined the Schengen area and the Eurozone only last year. After about 2 hours, I finally arrived in Zagreb, free of laryngitis. Basically, my most recent time in Zagreb was last year, and I did have laryngitis. But here it is. I'm actually going to eat at Mlinar once again. Basically the same place I ate last year. And over here is my meal. Basically, this is hot dog, and this is pizza, and this is actually some chicken thing, as well as some juice. I actually paid $7 for this, basically €6.50. So why not, I'm actually going to eat, and then I'm going to go to the Tesla Museum. After eating lunch, I'm actually going to go to the Nikola Tesla Museum. Yes, I have not visited the Tesla Museum last year because it actually closes at 5 p.m. just like the Leonardo da Vinci Museum. And plus, I did suffer from laryngitis, so I did have to buy salt and stuff to actually mitigate any effects from laryngitis. But as you can see, I'm actually currently waiting for the 2 streetcar, which could take me all the way to the Tesla Museum. Okay guys, I just jumped on streetcar 2, basically tram 2, which would take me to basically the Nikola Tesla Technical Museum. Not the Tesla Museum in terms of electric cars, but Nikola Tesla was also an innovator in terms of electricity. In fact, he actually improvised a current called alternating current, or basically AC, whilst Thomas Alva Edison actually improvised DC, direct current. Now, fun fact, there are actually 2 car companies named after Nikola Tesla. You know the obvious, Tesla, basically with the Model 3, Model Y, Model S, Model X, as well as Cybertruck and even the Roadster. In fact, the first Tesla car was actually the Tesla Roadster, based on a Lotus Elise, but that really failed. And even though the second generation Tesla Roadster was announced like 6.5 years ago, like I have never even heard anybody even drive it. In fact, there's still reservations, and it still costs like an extortionate amount of money. The other company is actually Nikola. Well, Nikola actually proposed the hydrogen electric truck, basically a lorry, but in fact Nikola was unraveled as like a scam or something, and then the founder was actually arrested. Triple Milton, yeah, he was arrested and charged with fraud. After about 20 minutes, I finally arrived at the Nikola Tesla Technical Museum, and why not, I'm going to enter. As you can see, the museum does close at 1 p.m. on weekends. Yeah, but basically outside of weekends it actually closes at 5 p.m. which is kind of normal, but still quite early, unfortunately. Okay guys, I'm currently in the museum, and I did spend 1.5 hours just taking pictures at this museum. And as you can see, this museum does include a lot of stuff. I only paid €4 for this museum. Yes, €4, and there's a lot. This is actually an early prototype of a fire pump over here, and over there are some earlier versions of fire brigades, and it does show various fire extinguishers, basically everything related to technology and engineering and stuff, and even science as well, physics, chemistry, essentially everything. These are actually earlier fire brigades and stuff, and if you were to see, these are actually fire extinguishers over the years. Yes, basically all of them happen to be in Pastor, Croatia, over here, ironically. But there are various fire extinguishers over the years, from like the 50s to 60s, all the way up to the 21st century. It even shows a history of firefighting. Yes, basically this is one of the great fires. Actually, I do think this is actually Great Fire of like London or something. But yeah, this museum does go through a lot of stuff, including, you guessed it, even water turbines and stuff. This over here is actually a horizontal single-cylinder reciprocating steam engine. Not only that, it does explain a history of water turbines with William Doble, who improved the Pelton wheel. And in 1750, Johann Segner invented what is a precursor to the modern water turbine. It actually does include a lot, and even interactive stuff as well, including what I'll show you. Yes, interactive sections. They do explain about energy and stuff, about wind energy, muscle energy, essentially everything. Basically with pulleys and levers and stuff, which help improve efficiency. It also includes solar energy, as basically the sun does provide a ton of energy. Let me explain. Basically every 24 hours the sun does produce enough sunlight to power the earth for 24 years. Basically here's several more turbines, and here are some diagrams for water turbines and stuff, as well as different engines. And if you were to see over here, this is actually another single cylinder reciprocating steam engine. And if you were to go all the way down here, it would actually show a well, this is actually a maritime vessel reciprocating steam engine, and this is a steam locomotive, really big however. And basically over here are various petrol engines. This is actually a Japanese petrol engine. Over here is a German petrol engine. This is actually from Daimler-Benz. And over here is actually a rotary engine from New York. And of course this is actually a Skoda 4-stroke petrol car engine. And to sum it all up, it even shows a diagram of engines. Over here, various plane engines, basically ranging from a number of different brands, including from gas with the aircraft piston engine. Even Alfa Romeo, an Italian car brand, actually created aircraft piston engines before World War II. And even Daimler-Benz and of course Rolls-Royce actually did create airplane engines. This is actually their piston engine. And this is General Electric's aircraft jet engine here. Basically in this section of the museum, it does talk about mining over here. This is actually a core drill. And these are some of the equipments miners actually use and wear. And over here, it does talk about the oil refinery process and stuff, as well as several oil samples. And here's actually another fire extinguisher. Basically a reference to the beginning of the museum. Here's actually mineral processing, and basically all the steps to it. And this is actually related to oil drilling and stuff. Of course, Croatia, as well as the rest of Yugoslavia, and even the rest of the world have drilled oil at least some bits, because oil has some bit to do with the economies of many countries. This is actually a crude oil sample, and these are actually gas condensate samples, and over here are actually antifreeze. And I'm not even joking, there are many scientists who actually like research about oil and stuff, and how to make more efficient oil, such as synthetic fuel and stuff. Over here is a crude oil sample, and over here is kerosene lamp. And basically this is how the exploitation of oil and gas is. And of course this is actually a fuel station. Yes, an example, basically using 95 E5, which is a bit more expensive than 95 E10, which is essentially equal to 90 octane, which is essentially premium fuel in the US. But as you can see, this guy's name is Anton Lucic, and he's one of the famous people in Croatia who actually worked in the oil sector. There's even a whole section which talks about minerals and stuff, basically with all the rock samples and stuff, as well as geophysics. Yeah, basically like this museum does include a lot, even more than the Leonardo da Vinci Museum in Italy. But in reality, that museum, I did not go to too much of it because it actually closed an hour after I visited. But the Tesla Museum is a lot cheaper, but it does include a lot of things over here. And of course in here it does talk about Nikola Tesla. He was actually born in 1856 in a small village in Croatia, and then he did go to school in Graz, where he then succeeded, and then went to university in Graz. And after going to university, he went to the US and actually founded the Tesla Electric Company. Yes, I'm not even joking. There's actually Tesla, which is the predecessor to the Tesla EV. And of course, it does have countless inventions and innovations, especially with electric power and stuff, such as alternating current. Sorry if I'm a bit too loud, but actually I did say he did innovate in alternating currents, which is much more cost effective, and also AC is actually easier to generate as well. So hence AC is actually better than DC. But basically you also see medical devices over here which use radiation and stuff. Of course, such as X-rays have a lot of radiation, and of course it does display some more like devices and stuff. This is actually a 12-pole directed current generator, DC generator, and here's some more motors and stuff. And if you were to go here, it does explain radiation. Basically, magnet has low levels of radiation, and of course with nuclear, there's actually a ton of radiation. And radiation is essentially everywhere. In fact, smoking even causes radiation as well. And of course over here it also discusses about nuclear energy and of course isotopes, which actually have a different atomic mass, say like carbon 14 versus like carbon 12. For example, basically many isotopes are quite radioactive because they do have a half-life and a decay. And basically it does discuss the differences between fission and fusion, as fission is basically the splitting of particles and the fusion is essentially the joining of particles. Over here is the protective equipment used in nuclear power plants, of course, because nuclear power plants does have a lot of radiation. And lastly, in the first floor it does show some cars as well as different types of transportation, including ships and stuff. As you can see, this is actually a Volkswagen Beetle, which is actually the people's car. And over here is actually a concept of an electric car from 2010. I really wish this museum does include Tesla Model 3 and Model S. But as you can see, this is actually a Maserati Quattroporte from 2005. Basically the second to most recent. This is actually an Auto Union and an NSU car, both from Germany. And over here I believe is some Hansa passenger car, and over there is actually a Zastava 750, a horrible car, but in many ways just like the Yugo. As Zastava did create the Yugo, and over here are some ships of many different periods, just like at the Leonardo da Vinci Museum, which also shows ships as well. But over there is actually a submarine. Over there is actually, I believe, a boat from like the 1950s actually in Croatia, even though Croatia did have more advanced boats. And over here is actually a Renault, basically a rival to the Ford Model T. This is definitely a Daimler-Benz sporting car, but it has been stripped down. And over there is actually Chevy, not a Ford Model T. But it does show diagrams of like multiple pieces of engineering and transportation and stuff. Basically, if you were to go here and over there, planes and helicopters and stuff. Some of them even military fighter jets. Actually, that Croatian flag, that is for the National Guard of Croatia, which was actually a fascist empire, I believe so. You could even see a motor sleigh here, as well as, you guessed it, parachutes. Basically, many of these people actually go down via the parachutes. These are all the way on the sky. But over here are some diagrams and prototypes of planes. Basically, some of these are fighter jets. I believe this is actually a World War II fighter jet. And over here is actually a Russian fighter jet for World War II. And if you were to go around, it does show various planes and even trains as well. I believe that is a tram line, and over there is actually a steam locomotive. And it also shows the evolution of bikes from the very beginning. This is actually one of the first bikes from 1850, basically the 19th century. This is actually a high-wheeler bicycle, and some of these are bikes, and these are early versions of mopeds and stuff, motorcycles, basically until you reach the very end, which shows a much more modern motorcycle. This is actually a TMZ motor scooter, not a Vespa. And here are actually like modern day motorcycles, sort of, from Tomos. And of course, just like I said, this is actually a steam locomotive used between 1900 and 1980 in Croatia. And lastly, over here is, of course, a tram. I got up to the second floor now, and there are even more things to show you guys. I do liken this museum to essentially the Deutsches Museum, except it only costs €4 for one adult, which is insane. Over here are some of the first methods of writing and communication. Of course, this is actually an ancient pen, and of course this is an ancient tabula here. And as you can see, some of these are from the ancient times, but then you do get to the 19th century where you actually get some of these devices, including what is a telegraph and Morse telegraph receiver and stuff. And you basically start to see more modern stuff here. These are essentially telegraphs, and from the telegraph you do get to the telephone here, and from the telephone you do get to typewriters. Yes, basically the precursor to modern day computers. This is actually a teleprinter specifically, and this especially is a teleprinter. And if you were to go here, it would actually show a digitized electronic typewriter with a screen. I don't think it even runs an operating system, but you also see more stuff here. Some of these are actually phototelegraphic stations, and over here are actually fax machines, and here are actually computers. This is actually a Commodore 3016 essentially. Many of these do run like this operating systems and stuff, such as IBM DOS and stuff. This is actually a Macintosh Classic, basically similar to the 128K, which is iconic, and I do believe this is actually an IBM laptop. Basically, these are some of the older modems from the 90s, and this is the iBook G3. This is actually the eMac, which is Apple's very last CRT computer. And of course, these are actually telephones and stuff. This is actually a 9210 PDA, and over there is another PDA, actually from HTC, and over there is actually Samsung Tab 8.0. And if you were to go over here, it does describe the periodic tables of elements in kind of a weird form, but over here is hydrogen, helium and stuff, and lithium, beryllium, boron, and carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, neon, and sodium, magnesium, aluminium, and silicon, as well as many others, including uranium and neptunium and stuff. But you do actually see this guy, which is Nicolaus Copernicus, who was actually a Polish scientist who theorized the sun is at the center rather than the earth, unlike many medieval people. Over here is the Saturn V, which is actually taller than the Zagreb Cathedral. Remember the cathedral I could not visit because of an earthquake? Well, now I still cannot visit that cathedral, so I might have to go to Zagreb again in the next several years. But this is actually still the biggest rocket ever built. It was actually engineered by Werner von Braun, who was actually a Nazi American physicist and engineer. And over here is of course a telescope, and if you were to see one of these, this is actually Sputnik 1, which was the first satellite to be on the Earth's orbit in 1957. And just 4 years later, Yuri Gagarin was actually the first person in space. He actually rode on the Vostok spacecraft, but he did die 7 years after his intermission into space. But as you can see, these are actually American satellites over here. And if you were to go all the way here, it would actually show the Mariner 2, which is the first spacecraft from the US to actually reach another planet. And wait, there are even more typewriters here. Wow. And you actually see some measuring tools and calculators and stuff used in science and technology, engineering, maths, as well as, you guessed it, these are sound devices. Essentially, you could put vinyl tapes in here and actually listen to music. This is actually a gramophone. And if you were to see, some of these are actually newer CD players and stuff. Much more advanced than your typical CD player at Best Buy. And over here is of course a vinyl disc player, and this is actually a switchboard, essentially a logic board for many CD players and stuff. And these are actually radios, some older televisions. In fact, I don't really see any newer ones because these are actually from the 50s and 60s. And of course, these are actually telephones here. And these are some older appliances, including fridges and ovens and stoves and stuff. And of course, these are actually household appliances. This is actually a washer And some of these are actually fans and stuff. And you even see like sewing machines as well. And not only that, you actually see even more sewing machines here. In fact, this museum is so diverse, it even talks about bee colonies and stuff, as well as these. Yes, basically animal carriages and stuff. And this museum also talks about clean energy. This is actually a biodiesel, and over here is actually Toyota's famous hybrid synergy powertrain used for the Prius, the second generation one. And this is essentially a large windmill turbine power plant. And over here is actually a geothermal plant in Croatia. And of course there are solar panels depicting solar energy, and this is actually the first timber frame passive home in Croatia. If you don't know, passive homes are actually much more efficient than regular houses and stuff, using far less energy. And by the end you actually see some beauty machines over here, and even more. Basically a lot of stuff here. And if you were to go here, it will show you guys measuring devices, basically used to measure weight and stuff, pendulums, as well as microscopes and stuff. And here even more measuring devices. And then you get to the video section where you of course see video recording devices, camcorders and stuff. Really big and ancient ones to being more compact and more modern. And these are of course cameras from the old daguerreotype to some like much newer like cameras and stuff. And of course portable cameras. And basically you see a lot of recording devices. And of course some of these are actually more like microscopes and stuff, such as this Magnifax. But basically like you just see an array of devices. Basically I'm just gonna leave this museum now. It has been a long time. I spent nearly 3 hours at this museum just taking pictures just before recording each section. It shows you guys how long it is. Basically I'm just gonna leave. It has been quite great to see this museum, especially given the fact I do have a great passion for technology. I learned programming since 8 or 9 years old, and also I'm quite good at programming and majored in computer science. So of course my skill is actually in computers and technology. This is essentially just a mini version of Deutsches Museum, but except a lot more affordable. Even more affordable than Da Vinci Museum in Italy. Now, due to the fact I'm tired because I woke up at around 5:40 and slept at like 1:40, and also Zagreb does not have many things to do because half of its main attractions are closed due to the earthquake 4 years ago, and it's still under renovation even this year, let alone last year. And due to the fact I have to do my laundry, therefore I'm actually going to book this room here. This is actually Niva rooms. It is quite nice. I only pay around 50 euros, which is quite a good deal. Basically, like chain hotels are quite overrated, and I do believe these hotels do have some sort of footing in here. As you can see, it is quite nice in here. Yeah, basically I'm going to be staying here for the night. And of course, this is actually a closet. Basically quite nice. So why not, I'm just going to stay here for the night. After checking into the hotel, I'm currently at the wash and go laundry, where I'm going to be doing the laundry for today, because I did have a botched laundry operation several days ago in Milan, not having totally dried my clothing, only having sort of dried my clothing. After finishing my laundry, I just got my dinner, and my dinner is essentially the same as my lunch. I'm actually going to eat, but first off, before I eat, I gotta take a shower. It's quite hot, and I've been sweating for a while, and I only slept like 4 hours, so I want to take a shower so I can cool down and then eat. And I'll see you guys soon. Thank you guys for watching. Please give a big thumbs up, subscribe for more videos. I'm actually going to make the Dubrovnik video tomorrow and the next day, and then the day after I'm going to combine the Budva and Mostar video into one, because these two cities are quite small. So thank you guys for watching.